أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another Ramadan Tajweed series where we learn rules of the Holy Qur'an, and this is part of our Qur'an tips episodes. Talat Syam, we're back. Today you're going to be expanding on more rules of the Holy Qur'an. We've covered, so many in the past 2 episodes already. So if anyone has missed out on that, you can go check that out on our YouTube channel, MTA Online 1. So Talat Syam, the Holy Quran is so important, so impactful to all Muslims around the world. It's a center point of our everyday life, as the Holy Prophet ﷺ said, that those who learn the Quran and then teach it, they are the best among you. So we're trying to also, live according to that saying of the Holy Prophet ﷺ. So if you could just give us a bit of an introduction of what we'll be learning today and the importance of why we're going to be learning it.
Jazakallah. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajeem. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Assalamu alaikum to everyone tuning in. So inshallah, just like you said, the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that the best amongst you are the ones who learn the Quran and teach it. And we understand that every single person is on a different journey in the Holy Quran, reciting the Holy Quran, learning the Holy Quran. And the month of Ramadan is the best month where we can learn to improve our recitation of the Holy Quran. And just like the Holy Prophet ﷺ said that the one who recites the Quran beautifully, smoothly and precisely, he will be in the company of noble and obedient angels. And as for the one who recites with difficulty, stammering or stumbling through its verses, then he will have twice that reward. So we appreciate, sometimes we all struggle with the recitation of the Holy Quran, and we're all learning and we're all on this journey. But it's always important to remember that the Holy Prophet ﷺ mentioned that those who struggle and strive in the recitation of the Holy Quran, the reward is double. So inshallah, just like we've done in the past years for Ramadan, we will be focusing on a few more rules and touching upon those rules and regulations in terms of improving our recitation.
Exactly, that's a really important point you made about everyone on their own journey. There's space for everyone to learn and to continue improving. But the main effort Allah the Almighty looks at is your heart and your intentions, and to try and keep it consistent within your life and slowly build up to reading more and more and understanding what you are learning as well. So as you mentioned, we're going to try and go through the rules, and hopefully inshallah this will improve our quality in recitation. So the first rule that we want to look at is Iqlab. So could you just tell us what this means and where it's found within the Holy Quran?
So just like you mentioned, the first rule that we'll be looking at is the Iqlab. And the definition of Iqlab, it basically means conversion or changing. And Iqlab happens when you have the Noon Sakin or the Tanween, and the next letter that follows this Noon Sakin and the Tanween is a Ba. And what changes is that the Noon sound is not produced or pronounced clearly. Instead, it turns into a hidden meme sound. But alongside this meme sound, we have to add the nasal ghunna. And we've touched upon what the ghunna sound is in the previous series. And we all know that the ghunna sound is for at least 2 counts, and it's the nasalization of the sound, concealing it into your nose. And your lips gently prepare pronouncing a meme, but you don't make like a full clear meme sound. And the best way to pronounce this is that you stop your tongue from making a clear noon. And you let the sound come through the nose, and you perform the ghunna sound, which is of 2 seconds. And then you pronounce the ba, which follows straight after the noon sakin or the tanween.
I think it's really well explained, Talat. So I think to accommodate it, is there any examples that you can give?
So I have 2 examples from the Holy Quran. So the first one, if we can see on the screen, it's Inna Allah Sami'un Basir. And as we can see over here, the Sami'un, there is a tanween over here. So the sound that's produced is a Noon Sakin sound. And straight after the Noon Sakin sound that is produced from the tanween, we have the letter Ba, which follows this. So according to this rule, we will not be producing the Noon Sakina sound. this will convert into or change into a meme sakina. And that's why sometimes in our Quran Mus'haf, in our writings, we have a small meme that they place on the top when this rule appears, so that there's ease, so that people can understand that over here they won't be producing the noon sakina sound, it will be the meme sakina sound. So the correct way to pronounce this will be Inna Allah Sami'un Basir. So I will not pronounce the noon sakina, it will turn into a meme sakina. Another example is Min Ba'di. So over here as well, we have the noon sakin, but straight after the noon sakin, there's a ba. So in this rule of Iqlab, the noon sakina will turn into a meme sakina, and the same thing will happen over here.
Yeah, it's really prominent when you do turn the noon into the meme. Are there any common mistakes which can be made?
So the common mistakes, as we have discussed, people when they come across this rule, they will tend to, instead of producing the meme sakina sound, they will produce the noon sakina sounds. Or over here as well, it won't be min ba'di. So when we're joining this together, because of the ba that comes after the noon sakina or the tanween that produces the noon sakina sound, it will turn into a meme. So these are some of the common mistakes that people make.
I remember in the last episode we also discussed about the nasal sound being quite difficult to make if you're not used to making that sound. So are there any tips of how?
Yeah, so I think we mentioned this in the previous episodes. So one way that a person can produce the nasal sound is, try and hold their nose and feel the vibration. Of course, not in public, like you mentioned before as well. But the best way to see if you're producing the nasal sound is to see if the sound that is going into your nose, you will feel it with the vibration in your nose. And also another common mistake that people make is that they close the lips too hard. And remember, when you're producing this Iqlab, it should be soft and gentle and smooth.
Very good. I think all the viewers as well can try and practice that as well. So the examples were on the screen, so try to go back and really look at that and try to work on it. That's the best as we can. And as you said, the point of it is to improve the quality of the recitation. The next rule that we want to look into is Izhaar and Idgham, or Izhaar Shafawi and Idgham Shafawi. So can you explain a little bit what these terms mean and where they are found in the Holy Qur'an?
Yeah, so in the previous episodes we mentioned Izhaar of noon sakin, and then we mentioned also the Idgham. We mentioned this complete assimilation and incomplete assimilation. But in the terms of the meme sakina, there are two further rules that are important to consider when it comes to the meme sakina. And one is the Izhaar Shafawi, and the other one is Idgham Shafawi. Both of these rules are related to the meme sakina. Now, Shafawi means lip-based, because the letter meme is formed when you are, the sound that is produced is from your lips. When you close your lips, the meme is produced. So, Izhaar Shafawi is a clear lip pronunciation of the meme sakina. Now, if meme sakin is followed by any letter except meme and ba, as we mentioned before, the meme is pronounced clearly without extra nasalization. That's very important. So izhar means manifestation, clear. So when it's izhar shafawi in terms of meme sakin, no nasalization will be produced, extra nasalization, and we have to pronounce the meme clearly. So if meme sakin is followed by any letter except meme and ba, and we've mentioned these rules in the past, the meme is pronounced clearly without extra nasalization. But if any other letter apart from these two letters, meme and ba, 26 letters of the Arabic alphabet come after the meme sakina, then this rule of izhar shafawi will be applied.
If 26 letters are applied to this rule, that means there must be quite a few examples in the Holy Quran. So I think it would be beneficial for the viewers if we heard either one or two examples.
Yeah, no, of course. So we will see many examples from the Holy Quran, but one example of the Izhar Shafawi is from Surah Al-Fatiha. And it's a very famous common verse, and that is أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ غَيْرِ. Okay, so we can see on the screen as well, the word عَلَيْهِمْ, at the end, it ends with a mim sakin. Yeah, mim sakina. And the next letter that follows the mim sakina is a ghain. Now, the ghain is amongst those letters of Izhaar Shafawi, you know, the 26 letters that we spoke about earlier. And when any of these letters come after the mim sakina, the mim should be pronounced very clearly and there will be no extra nasalization. That's the most important thing. So, alayhim ghayril maghdub. So that will be the correct way of pronouncing this. So yeah, but one of the common mistakes is some people, they will pronounce the mim sakina with a nasal sound and they would spend unnecessary time or unnecessary prolongation on these letters. So in this case, it shouldn't be like that. It should be a clear manifestation, and that's what Izhaar Shafawi is.
So you've explained it really well. So in comparison to the Idgham Shafawi, how does that differ to this rule?
So as we mentioned previously, that Idgham just means joining, right? Assimilating. Now when a mim comes after the mim sakina, that means two mims will merge into one. And that will create a single stressed mim with the shadda. And that is pronounced with a 2-second nasalization sound. That is Idgham Shafawi. Just to explain this more further, if the mim sakin is followed by another mim, they merge into one mim with a 2-count ghunna. And an example from the Holy Qur'an is lakum lakum. Now this over here, as we can see, the mim sakina, it's followed by another mim, and that mim automatically takes the shadda. So when we're stressing this, when two mims come together and there's a sakina and there's another mim after it, that will turn into idgham shafawi. And in this case, we have to produce a 2-second nasal sound.
Just like the other rules, are there common mistakes with this one as well, of mispronouncing it or getting the rule wrong?
Yeah, so I think I already mentioned about Izhaar Shafawi in terms of mim sakin. Some people tend to put the ghunna over here, but that's not needed over here because Izhaar basically means to clearly manifest the sound. But in Idgham, sometimes what happens is people might tend to separate those two mims. So for example, in this example that we mentioned, lakum ma. If I read it like this, lakum, and then I have a pause and I say ma straight after it, that wouldn't be the correct pronunciation for this. So when I'm going in a flow of recitation, I have to say the whole thing properly and merge the two mims. The correct pronunciation will be lakum ma, and that nasal sound will be produced.
Just to recap what you've taught us with these two rules, the Izhaar Shafawi is a clear meme sound with no extra nasal, and Idgham Shafawi is a merged meme sound plus 2 seconds of ghunna, right? And by doing, is there a tip of how we can differentiate between both? And because there are so many rules.
The best way to recognize these rules is that when the mim sakina comes and straight after the mim sakina there's a ba, then you automatically know that this is going to be ikhfa mim sakin. We mentioned this in the previous episodes. Now, if a mim comes after the mim sakina, then it's a double mim, right? And that double mim will turn into the rule idgham shafawi when we're joining the two mims together. Now, any other letter that comes after the mim sakina, apart from these two that we've discussed in these rules, then automatically the rule that will be applied over here will be the Izhaar Shafawi. So that's the 26 letters apart from the two over there.
Exactly. Very well explained, Talat. So another letter within the Holy Qur'an is the letter Ra. So Ra comes with multiple rules and sounds within the Holy Qur'an. Could we just differentiate between what those rules are with this particular letter?
Yeah, so exactly, you're right. In the previous episodes, we recommend everyone to go check those episodes. We've touched upon what Tafkheem is, which is thickening. We've touched upon what Tarqeeq is, and what thin letters are, what thick letters are. And it's very important to know these and recognize these letters. As we mentioned, the foundational roots for tajweed is makharij. If we get the correct pronunciation of each letter, then automatically your tajweed will fall into place. So it's very, very important to recognize these letters. And we mentioned that perfectly well. But in terms of Ra, there are certain rules and regulations in terms of Ra. Now, Ra is either heavy and Tafkheem, or it's light, Tarqeeq. And the biggest clue into recognizing whether the Ra that you're reading in the Quran is going to be thick or thin is the vowel on the Ra in itself. All right. In many cases in the Holy Quran, the Ra would come with a fatha and the Ra would come with a dhamma. That automatically is going to be thick because of the nature of the vowel on the letter. And then if the Ra has a kasra underneath it, then automatically that's going to be light. So that's the basic rules of understanding how to differentiate the Ra. So I'll give you an example of the fatha and the dhamma. So the fatha, one word is Rasul, Rasul. So Ra is thick over here, yeah? And then with dhamma, we have Ruh, yeah? Ruh. This is again thick. That's because of the fatha and the dhamma. But when the Ra has a sukoon on top and the letter before has a fatha or a dhamma, it will also be thick in this case. So I'll give you one example. We know this example. Maryam. Yeah, Maryam. So because the Ra has a sukoon on top, the letter before, we have to look at the letter before. The letter before has a fatha, that's why it will be thick over here. Maryam. The next word is Qur'an. Qur'an. Yeah, the qaf that comes before the Ra with the sukoon has a dhamma. So that has determined whether this Ra will be thick or thin. So in this case, it will be thick. So one special example is when it has a sukoon and is preceded by a letter with kasra, but the letter after Ra is a heavy letter, the thick letters. So one example is mirsada. So this word, the sad is a thick letter. It comes after the Ra, even though before the Ra there is a letter that has a kasra underneath it, we still have to pronounce this thick. So these are the specific rules with Ra.
So that's the only exception when it comes to having a kasra before Ra.
Exactly.
That is followed by a...
In general, if a letter that bears the kasra vowel comes before the Ra, it will be thin, it will be tarqiq. But if after that letter Ra there is a thick letter, like we discussed over here, then we will have to thicken the Ra over here.
We've covered the tafkheem, the heavy sound of Ra. So can we quickly touch upon the Tarqeeq, the lighter sound of Ra, and where it's found?
Yeah, so the Tarqeeq sound, the Ra is pronounced lightly, Tarqeeq, when it has a kasra. Okay, so an example would be rizqan. Yeah, in this, the Ra has a kasra, automatically is going to be light. Or bari'ikum, that will be something light as well over here because the Ra has a kasra. But as we mentioned in the Tafkheem, there was a certain rule. If the letter that comes after the Ra is thick in terms of kasra, then it will be a thick pronunciation. The same over here. When it has a sukoon and the letter before it has a kasra and is not followed by a heavy letter, then over here it will be Tarqeeq of the Ra. And an example is fir'auna. Yeah, so over here I won't thicken the Ra, it will be thin. So that in itself, these are the rules and conditions of thickening the Ra sound and thinning the Ra sound.
Yes, I think with every rule, there's always probably some mistakes that we make when we're trying to apply it. Are there any rules, mistakes that we can make with this rule as well?
So again, the common mistakes is if we start making every Ra a heavy sound. Sometimes some reciters they would thicken everything. That isn't the right way. You have to understand that there's certain rules that have to be applied. So if the conditions are there for the Ra to be thick, then that's all well and good. But if the conditions are there for it to be Tarqeeq, then it's important to do that as well. And over thinning heavy Ra, it loses the Arabic sound. So again, this is all like makharij, like we're not, I'm not the most perfect example, but with practice, like everyone should be practicing, and with practice you can get that close sound.
Well, I think as well with the importance of why we need to try and pronounce letters correctly is also the meaning behind the words.
Yeah.
And sometimes when you mispronounce a letter, when you apply the lighter sound, it can change the whole meaning of a word and the whole value of it as well. This is why in the Holy Quran, every letter has its own sound because it's attached to a deeper meaning, which is why the Holy Quran has so much depth in the Arabic language.
Of course. And just as like pronunciation tips, if you want to produce the thick sound of a Ra, the back of your tongue slightly rises, so it'll be Ra. So but make sure you don't try and roll the sound, Sometimes you don't want to like roll the sound, but it's just the simple thickening, and the tongue at the back will be raised. And in terms of pronouncing the light Ra, keep the tongue relaxed and don't pull the sound too deep. And one key tip is to check the vowel on the Ra. If it's a Sakin, then check the vowel before it. And this habit makes the recitation immediately more accurate. So that's one small tip.
Jazakallah, that is really well explained. When we are reciting the Holy Quran, we do see symbols within the Holy Quran while we're reciting. These are known as Waqf, or like places where we stop or pauses. There are quite a few of them. It would be good to go through some of them, the most common ones, and just try to explain to us what they mean and whether we need to stop or pause or continue. So if you could just explain some of those.
Stop signs in the Quran, known in Arabic as Waqf marks, the Ramuzul Waqf, are symbols inserted into the text to guide reciters on where to pause, to stop or continue, ensuring that the meaning of the verses is properly preserved. While the Quran was revealed orally, these punctuation-like marks were developed by scholars over time in later centuries to assist non-Arabic speaking population. So as we know, when Islam spread, obviously people were reciting the Quran, so that these punctuation marks were there to assist and aid them so that they don't make the mistakes. And we will see these common signs throughout the Holy Quran. So it's important to discuss these.
Yeah, so if we can go through the first one, and then we can just work our way through them. And I think we could give some examples along the way of how to pause or how to continue.
Yeah, of course. So the main stopping signs, of course, like it depends on the mushaf of the Quran where people read, but predominantly our viewers, they probably read from the South Indian mushaf, and in that it's quite common to see these common signs. So we've chosen some of the most common signs that people will be seeing when they're reciting the Holy Quran. The first is the Waqf Lazim, and this is very, very important because Waqf Lazim basically means that you must stop. Continuing can distort the meaning. I think it's important to add over here that people might say, why does it matter to adhere to these stop signs? Sometimes stopping at the wrong place can change the meaning. So these symbols are like road signs, they tell you where to stop, where to continue, and where a pause is optional, so that the reciter, it enhances the quality of your recitation. So these are very, very important things to consider when any qari, any person who wants to improve their recitation will always look to this, and according to whatever they feel that they can do, they will look to where it's a must to stop, where it's important and not.
Like what do these symbols look like exactly, and especially with the Waqf Lazim?
So the Waqf Lazim, we should have that on the screen. It will be like a small meme sign.
Okay, so it's bigger, it's different size to the actual text of the Quran.
Of course, it will be something smaller, inserted by the people that have printed the Quran. They'll put it in the middle of the verse so that you understand, okay, this is a punctuation mark or something in the middle. As he said, it's the meme sign, Waqf Lazim. It means you must stop here. Continuing can distort the meaning. And one example is from Surah Al-Baqarah, chapter 2, verse 254. And as we can see over here, تِلْكَ الرُّسُلُ فَضَّلْنَا بَعْدَهُمْ عَلَى بَعْضٍ. So over here, we have the Waqf Lazim, and then over here afterwards is مِنْهُمْ مَنْ كَلَّمَ اللَّهُ. So it's must to stop over here. It's important for the meaning of the verse. If you continue without stopping, it incorrectly links two separate meanings. So the first one is like a general statement, and then then it's the other statement is a different meaning to it. So that's why it's really, really important to stop over here.
That's really good. Are there any other letters or symbols we look?
Yeah, so the next one is the Waqf Mutlaq, and that is the absolute stop. And that is normally with the ta, the absolute stop with the ta. And it's better to stop here than restart smoothly. And one example is from chapter 6, verse 37. إِنَّمَا يَسْتَجِيبُ الَّذِينَ يَسْمَعُونَ وَالْمَوْتَى يَبْعَثُهُمُ اللَّهُ. So of course, like, it's better to stop here because the sentence is complete and a new topic begins after it. So it's important to take that into consideration when you're reciting the Holy Qur'an. So yeah, the next one is Waqf Jaiz. So Waqf Jaiz basically means permissible, and it will be marked with the Jim, a small Jim sign in the middle of a sentence or an ayah. So this basically, it's permissible to stop or continue. Both are acceptable. It doesn't change the meaning of the verse in any way, shape or form. So that's why reciters have said that, scholars have said that it's fine. If you do tend to stop because of a shortage of breath, it doesn't change the meaning. But if you do want to continue, you can continue. One example is from chapter 2, verse 275. It's فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. So even if I don't stop, فَلَهُمْ أَجْرُهُمْ عِنْدَ رَبِّهِمْ وَلَا خَوْفٌ عَلَيْهِمْ وَلَا هُمْ يَحْزَنُونَ. There's no mistake over here. You can stop here, you can continue, it's up to you. The meaning remains sound either way. So that's the Waqf Jaiz. The next is the Waqf Mujawwaz. It's allowed, it's better to continue. So scholars say that it's better to continue, but stopping is not forbidden. So even if you do stop, it doesn't make any difference to the translation of the verse. So one example is in chapter 2, verse 8. وَعَلَىٰ أَبْصَارِهِمْ غِشَاوَةٌ. I can stop here, and then I can go وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. Or I can do it in one breath. وَعَلَىٰ أَبْصَارِهِمْ غِشَاوَةٌ وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. So both are fine, but it does say that it's better to continue.
Sometimes these marks are just there for our ease and facility, and depending on your level of recitation, sometimes you don't have the breath to carry on, so it's like a indication that try pause and then carry on. Whereas other people can also carry on.
Yeah. So just to bear in mind, it's better to continue. So that's what the Waqf Mujawwaz means. When you do continue, the sentence is more fluent when it's connected instead of pausing. So that's why they say that it's better to continue. The next one is the Waqf Murakhas, and that will be with the Sad. And it means stop only if you need a breath. Continue if you can, and it's preferable to continue. So let's say a long verse comes and you come across this verse and this stop sign, and you're running out of breath and you know that you won't be able to finish it, then you can stop. So chapter 2, verse 244, we have وَهُمْ أُلُوفٌ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ فَقَالَ لَهُمُ اللَّهُ. So if I'm reciting this and I do need to stop, I can stop at the verse over here, or I can just continue all in one go.
You gave an example of when you stopped, so how will it sound? Because it is permissible, how will it sound if you were to continue your breath and finish the verse?
So if I do continue, it will be وَهُمْ أُلُوفٌ حَذَرَ الْمَوْتِ فَقَالَ لَهُمُ اللَّهُ. So I will be reading the vowel underneath that there. So that's another important point that we'll touch, that when you do stop, you stop on a letter, it turns into a Sakin. So that's the common thing. But if you are continuing, then you have to read the vowels.
Yeah. So another one is the qaf. Is there a name given to that for this pause in the Quran?
Yeah. So the next one is the Qeela. So alayhi al-waqf. That's what it's called sometimes. And this is with with the qaf. Yeah, with the qaf. And it's better not to stop at this. But some reciters do stop. Again, it depends on you. But according to some scholars, they say that it's better not to stop. So they've added this in there so they understand that it's better not to stop over here. So one example is over here, chapter 2, verse 80, as you can see on the screen. فَوَيْلٌ لِلَّذِينَ يَكْتُبُونَ الْكِتَابَ بِأَيْدِيهِمْ ثُمَّ يَقُولُونَ هَذَا مِنْ عِنْدِ اللَّهِ. So that's why, as it's better not to stop, so I would be reciting throughout the verse over here. But even if you do stop, it's fine. It's perfectly fine. But it's recommended that it's better not to stop here. So Humayon, the next one is the most common sign, which is the la. Now, la basically means do not stop. You should not stop here unless you're absolutely out of breath and you stop. But even then, you have to go back into the verse and make sure that you do cross this. If you must stop, restart from a suitable earlier point and then cross this. But it's absolute must that you do not stop here in the lam and start from the next. So it's important that you do cross in your recitation. So one example is from chapter 2, verse 12, and it's وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ قَالُوا إِنَّمَا نَحْنُ مُصْلِحُونَ. So over here, I did not stop over here because you should not stop here. That's what la means over here.
And if you were to
So let's say, for example, let's say I'm reciting and I end up stopping. وَإِذَا قِيلَ لَهُمْ لَا تُفْسِدُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ. If like my breath has gone now, if I stop over here, then I'll go back to a suitable place and I'll be like, I'll start from over here. لا تفسدوا في الأرض قالوا إنما نحن مصلحون. So that's how I would do it.
Brilliant. Yeah, that's really well explained. Do any other pauses you want to go through before we go to the next rule?
Humayon, the next one is known as a Sila or a Wasl Oula. And over here, when this sign comes, it's better to continue rather than stop. So one example I've got from the Holy Qur'an is from chapter 6, verse 142. كُلُوا مِن ثَمَرِهِ إِذَا أَثْمَرَ وَآتُوا حَقَّهُ يَوْمَ حَصَادِهِ وَلَا تُسْرِفُوا. So when this verse comes, then of course it's better to continue. But again, even if you do stop, then the best way is to go back to a desired place where it will make sense in the verse and start and try and go forward without pausing. The next one is the kif, which is a recommended pause, but it's not compulsory. It's recommended to stop here. You should stop here, but it's not compulsory. Chapter 2, verse 84. وَإِذْ أَخَذْنَا مِيثَاقَ بَنِي إِسْرَائِيلَ لَا تَعْبُدُونَ إِلَّا اللَّهَ وَبِالْوَالِدَيْنِ إِحْسَانًا. So again, you can see over here, it's recommended to pause, but it's not compulsory. I can just, لا تعبدون إلا الله وبالوالدين إحسانا. It depends all on your recitation.
So we covered quite a few of the stop signs. There's just probably a few more. I want to touch on one in particular, which is the 3 dots you see, in particular in the beginning of Surah Baqarah. Sometimes people don't know how to navigate through those. If you should pause at both of them, or you should skip them, or just stop at one. I think it'll be interesting and valuable to know if you could explain how to go about that.
So we've mentioned the main stop signs, but you would see certain special signs, and one of them is waqf. mu'anaka, yeah? And you will see them come in a pair of 3 dots. And this is called the embracing stop in English. You either stop at one of the 2 dots, but you do not stop at both. So if you choose to stop at, so it will always come in a pair. So you'll see the first sign and then you'll see the second sign. If you choose to stop at the first, then you must not stop at the second. But if you don't stop at the first, then you must stop at the second. So that's very, very important. And I think the best example of mu'anaka is in Surah Al-Baqarah, which is the verse, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So as we can see over here, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ, yeah, لَا رَيْب, there is a mu'anaka, and then in between the 2 is fihi, and then another mu'anaka, and then هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Now, if I stop at the first one, ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ, and then if I start فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ, I can't stop at fihi, I have to cross and complete that. فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. Now, if I stop at the second mu'anaka, as you know, commonly when we do recitation, the most common recitation is ذَلِكَ الْكِتَابُ لَا رَيْبَ فِيهِ هُدًى لِلْمُتَّقِينَ. So as you can see, they're both, very, very profound in their meanings, but that's how the mu'anaka can give an open translation and more deeper meaning of the verse. So this particular verse, it's very deep in its meaning. So that's the most common example. And of course, Humayon, the most important sign of Waqf is, of course, the Ayah sign. At the end of each ayah, we stop and the ayah, when it's revealed, that's the stop sign. It's desired. But on some verses of the Holy Qur'an, at the end of the ayah sign, you will see a lam. In that case as well, you are allowed to cross in those cases. But if you do cross it, then you have to understand that you must complete the next verse. So I have one example in Surah Al-Fatiha. We have Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, and then we have the next verse, Maliki Yawmiddin. Now, if I was to read these 2 verses together, I have to complete it. So I can't break the next verse. I will read it in this way. Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim Maliki Yawmiddin. So that will be the correct way.
Yeah, I think you've touched upon a lot of tips there, and also the importance of not stopping and also stopping. And we shouldn't mix those up, because if you do, then as you mentioned, either the meaning of the verse can change, or the whole recitation will
Of course,
be false.
And when we're stopping, the last letter is read with a sukoon. I mentioned this earlier, and no final vowel sound will be produced. So no fatha, no kasra, no dhamma. If I'm stopping, it will turn into a sukoon. Now, if the word ends with a ta marbuta, then it is commonly read like a ha. So if I'm stopping at ta marbuta, it will turn into a ha when stopping. And do not keep pronouncing the last fatha, kasra, dhamma after you stop.
So Talat, we've gone through 6 of the rules so far. Within those 6, there are many sub topics which come into it and sub rules. The last topic which we want to talk about is the alif lam, which is obviously so common. It comes in almost every verse. This is split into Qamariyyah and Shamsiyah, which is the moon and the sun sort of letters. So if we can just go over this very quickly and just understand how the alif lam impacts these words.
So as you beautifully mentioned, there's certain letters which are known as Qamariyyah and certain letters which are called Shamsiyah, the moon letters and the sun letters. Let's begin with the moon letters, yeah? When a word begins with alif lam, sometimes you pronounce the lam clearly and sometimes you don't. And the difference depends on the first letter that comes after the alif lam. Hence why we have the moon letters and the sun letters. Now, the moon letters, the Qamariyyah, you pronounce, when they come, when these letters come after the alif lam, you pronounce the lam clearly. An example is in Surah Al-Fatiha again. Alhamdu. Yeah, over here you hear the lam. Alhamdu, clearly. I'm pronouncing it clearly. Why? Because the letter that comes after, the ha, it's a moon letter, Qamariyyah. Now, a common mistake that people can make in this is hiding the lam when it should be clear in every aspect when you're reciting this. That's what the moon letter is. Now, moving on, we mentioned the Qamariyyah, we also have the Shamsiyah, the sun letters. In this case, the lam merges into the next letter, and the next letter has a shadda. The shadda is there so that we understand that this is a Shamsiyah letter. An example is in chapter 91, Ash-Shamsi. Ash-Shamsi. So as you can see, alif lam is there. The sheen that comes after the alif lam, it's a letter of the sun letters, the Shamsiyah letters. Therefore, the lam will be silent and the alif will join into the sheen. And that is the correct pronunciation. Ash-Shamsi. The shadda will come on the sheen and it won't be al-Shams. That is the wrong way of pronouncing this. You know, some people when they come across, they'll say al-Shams. Always remember the shadda takes precedence in every case. So the shadda is there obviously to help us in recitation. But if you do not see the shadda, always remember that whenever these sun letters come, the alif lam will not be pronounced properly. The alif will join into the sheen.
So just to recap that you mentioned about the sun and moon letters, this is just to differentiate between the letters in the Arabic language.
Yeah.
It's just the name that's given, moon and sun. So within the moon letters, the alif lam is pronounced clearly, the lam is pronounced clearly. And within the sun letters, the lam is basically
Silent.
silent, and the letter is doubled, whichever one's the next one.
Yeah.
To mention, like Ash-Shams. Literally,
the sheen is doubled, is turned into shadda, and the shadda always takes precedence.
Yeah.
So yeah, Humayon Sahib, alhamdulillah, you know, we've been on this long journey. You know, I say this every single time. Everyone is on that journey. Me, myself, everyone, yourself, everyone listening at home. There's always room for improvement in recitation, in improving the recitation of the Holy Qur'an and beautifying the recitation of the Holy Qur'an. And it's really important to take these rules into consideration, which is why we wanted to do this, so that people at home have a chance to improve their recitation in the month of Ramadan. But I guess I just want to ask, can you tell us why it's important to, you know, focus on our recitation? What does Allah Ta'ala say in the Holy Qur'an?
It's literally Qur'an tartila, like literally that recite the Qur'an with slow, measured recitation. And that's literally how the Holy Prophet Muhammad taught. That was the best example. He was someone who not only spoke Arabic, but taught his, you know, the people who followed the religion of Islam of how to correctly pronounce each of those letters. So that's the kind of the bar that's set. And so everyone, even if you're not an Arab speaker, even if you don't know Arabic, learning the Quran in the right way is the most important thing, and trying your best is what Allah Ta'ala looks at.
Yeah, of course. And you know, like you said, the Prophet ﷺ, he said, whoever recites a single letter from the book of Allah will receive one good deed, and each good deed is multiplied by 10. And then he went further. He said, I do not say alif, lam, mim is one letter. He said, alif is a letter, lam is a letter, and mim is a letter. So each of these letters will give you reward in your recitation. Now imagine the reward when we recite carefully and we recite with all these rules in our mind, trying to beautify the recitation. And of course, the Holy Prophet said, the one who is proficient in the Quran will be with the noble and righteous angels. And the one who recites the Quran with difficulty, struggling through it, he will have the double reward.
Yeah, I mean, this is literally, like we mentioned this before in previous episodes, where the Holy Quran mentions that inna lahu lahafidun. And one of the ways of, you know, being the protectors of the Holy Quran is also being, you know, protecting the rules of the Holy Quran. And that's how not only we learn it, but we also teach those rules. And so that is one way to preserve the meaning and the value and the importance of what the Holy Quran really is, by not only reading slowly, but reflecting as well. And I feel like this point of reflection, is something that we will also look into in future episodes of how to understand what you're reading along with the rules that you're applying as well.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. So Jazakallah Talat for
Jazakallah.
sharing your knowledge.
And
Inshallah.
for the viewers at home, always practice. Always, in this month of Ramadan, try and make the most of it. It doesn't matter where you are, at what stage you are, what recitation. I always give this tip to every single person that try and listen to as much as you can. The more you listen, the more you learn, the more you can apply into your daily recitation. And also check out our previous lessons and episodes, and I'm sure people can benefit from them, inshallah.
Inshallah. Jazakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Assalamu alaikum.